So first things first, my name is Jill Thomas, for those of you who don't know me, which I'm going to guess is everybody since I don't know any of you. I am a hypnotherapist, like I said. Like she said, I'm also a psychic. I'm a channel, I'm an author. But one of my special gifts is that I connect with spirit guides. And in that connection of spirit guides, I can bring through information and wisdom. And what I've discovered over the years in learning and getting to know people's spirit guides, especially my own, is that most people really don't know that much about it. So we're going to talk today about your spirit guides. I call them your best unseen friend. And we're going to pass along the things that they really want you to know, okay? So first things first, couple of first things first. I have 2 hours. I'm not talking for 2 hours, just going to tell you that right now. I don't have that much to say. We're going to talk for maybe 35 to 45 minutes, and then we're going to do, I think we're doing meditation first, and then a Q&A. So hold your questions. The spirit guides have all this stuff they want me to tell you, but usually if I forget something on my list, there is a list behind me just to let you know. In case I forget something on my list, they will usually tap one of you guys on the shoulders and say, hey, ask Jill about that thing with that guy. So that way I get that information covered. The other thing I really want to say, and this is true for anyone who does intuitive readings, is that you're going to hear a lot of things from me today. I love espresso. I've taken lots of Toastmasters classes to try and slow down my pace, and in spite of that, I still talk very fast, okay? So you're going to get a lot of information today. Some of it you may hear and think, not sure I agree with her, or I'm not sure that's for me. That's okay. I want you to just set that aside and just know that you and I can disagree and still be friends. That's how it works, okay? If there's one thing that spirit guides say at every reading, at every session, at every event, is that they really want us to listen to our own intuition and not to just blindly go by whatever anybody else is telling us, but even if it's me. And as much as I would love to say I know everything about everything, there's too much evidence to the contrary out there, so we're just going to set that idea aside right away, okay? Makes sense? And like I said, if you don't agree with me, it's okay. We can still be friends, okay? So first thing we're going to talk about with spirit guides, the first question I always get is, what's their name? What's my guy's name? And I can tell you the guides very frequently will say, first of all, it doesn't matter. And I'm arguing with them. Come on, you guys, we're humans. We call our dogs our name. We name our cars. We are name people, right? And then I will sometimes get, you can't pronounce it. Or, it's not that important, or it's just not something that your tongue can say. I've heard that a few times, like the vowels won't come out of your mouth. So sometimes they'll give us a name, like a random name. I even had a client once where the spirit guide said, tell her my name is Bill. And I'm like, okay, dude, I already know that's not your name, so let's just set that aside. And he says, no, tell her it's Bill. And I did, and she starts laughing, and it's because she loves that show, True Blood. I don't know if you guys have seen that show. It's awesome. True Blood, HBO, right? The main character is a vampire named Bill, and she had just seen the episode where he's talking to Sookie, the other female character, and she's asking him his name, and he says, it's just Bill. And she's thinking it's going to be something really cool or weird, and it's just Bill. And so the guide was like, tell her my name is Bill. And to her, that was funny. So guides know you. They know your personality. Guides also have a sense of humor. I know everybody thinks it's guide, it's very solemn, it's going to be like St. Peter, just like in the Bible, and there's some of that. That's absolutely true. But guides can also be very funny. They can also be very irreverent. They aren't going to use words you don't use. So this is what's really, really key and important when connecting with spirit guides, is it's important for you to understand the guides, when they communicate you, it is always going to be your voice, right? You're not going to hear some creepy dude's voice in your head. If you do, it's not a guide, it's something else, okay? It's not your guides. Your guides are also not going to use words you don't understand. They're not going to use accents you don't understand. If a guide is communicating with you through an accent, it's usually, when people are channeling, sometimes a guide will mess with the vocal cords if you've given them permission to do that, by the way. Then you can hear an accent, but usually it's almost always your own voice, okay? Makes sense? So even when I've done those, I mentioned before, we started here, when I've even done those between lives regressions where a client is actually channeling their guide as part of the process, even then I don't often get a name. So sometimes they'll sound it out, they'll give a random name. That's kind of true. Some people really do get a full name, but that's not always the case. So if you don't hear a name when we do a process, don't worry about it. That's pretty normal, okay? When it comes to your guides, most people have 3 to 5 main guides, and then there's a few that pop in. The 3 to 5 are usually what I call the birth to death guides. They're the ones that are there when you're born, and they're there when you die, and they're escorting you to your family. Those are the guides that are with you all the time. But there's other guides that pop in when you've got a particular project, or if they want to write a book. Guides love it when there's somebody who wants to write a book, because they're like, oh, I've got a book I want to write. This person's willing to type it up. How cool is that, right? I know some of you guys have written books because I can see them in your aura. So you know what I'm talking about. There's a guide that will pop in sometimes and just do that project with you. There's also guides that will pop in if you're experiencing something really difficult. I had a Samoan client once, and she had a very beautiful Samoan guide that would hang out with her, and I was always watching. He was really neat. He was huge, by the way. He looked like The Rock, which I thought was the coolest thing ever. But this Samoan guide would pop into her with her, and she said she could actually see him sometimes when she was going through something really difficult. So for her, this Samoan guide made her feel safer and comfortable even when in her environment it wasn't real safe. So I have always been able to see guides, but it really my gift really became much stronger when I was around 3. I think I was about 3 years old. I had a not so great childhood. I'm sure you've heard this story before, so I'm not going to give you all the details, but it was rough and there was a lot of violence in the home. So at some point, I just decided I want out. Just popped out of my body. And the very first guide that I ran across, I said, essentially in little kid speak, I'm sorry, this is not what I signed up for. I'm out. Forget it. Can't do it. Right? And this guide said to me, if you do leave now, it's going to be really hard on your little brother, because I had a brother who's about a year younger than me. He's going to get the brunt of all of this. And, between the two of you guys, you can handle it, but he can't handle it on his own. But the guide essentially said, if you go back, you're going to be able to see us, and you'll be able to hear us. And more importantly, you're going to know that you're not alone. And for me, that was a big deal. Because even when things were really difficult, I could hear the guides in my head saying, kind of really cool. They were telling me what's really going on. Like, oh, your dad's just angry. Oh, your aunt is really crazy. Not that word, but although that was actually more true than anything else. But the guides were there letting me know that I wasn't alone. And I can tell you, up until the age of maybe 10, I didn't realize that everybody couldn't see guides. I thought everybody could do this. Like, I just didn't realize. But the guides were very clear that wasn't something I should talk to my parents about, which was good because my parents wouldn't have responded well. Let's put it that way. So back to the guides themselves. So I said you've got 3 to 5 main guides. And they'll pop, others that will pop in. There's another category of guides that I see a lot, particularly with healers, which pretty much everybody in this room is. There's a category of guides that some people refer to as guides in training. And these are the guides that when I see them, they tend to look smaller. And what they will do in their enthusiasm, they're kind of like a little kid. They'll just touch you, and you might even feel a spark. That can be a guide in training because they haven't quite figured out how to be in your energy field without popping you a little bit. There we go. The other thing with guides is that we can, generally when we see them, we don't see them with our physical eyes. We see them in our mind's eye. There's a couple of really good reasons for that. One of them is that guides' energy, vibrational frequency is a little too much for our physical eyes to see. It would actually burn them. Basically, this is what they've told me, because I'm asking them, why don't you guys just come up and say hello? And actually I had one guide say, hey, if you do ever see a being standing in front of you, it's not a guide, it's probably just a ghost. I was like, okay. And then I did see one in my house, and I went, man, I got a ghost in my house, I don't want that. But guides tend to appear to you in your mind's eye. They will also appear occasionally as pops of light in the corner. That can be guides. It can also be like angels will do that little corner of the eye. You'll see a blast of light. Another thing with guides is that they will oftentimes, when they're appearing even in your mind's eye, you're going to see them as colors, like bands of color. Dr. Newton in his class taught us that the colors meant something in particular, but I disagreed with what he said. This is a point where I can disagree with somebody and still be friends with him. I disagreed with what he said because he was trying to explain to us that the colors meant a different level, a certain color meant a higher level. But when I've talked to the guides about these colors, what I hear is that it has more to do with what the person is working on and less to do with the hierarchy. Us as humans and ego beings, because we are human being, we're also a soul and we're human animal. We are an animal that has a lot of emotions and a lot of feelings and an ego, right? We love to have the hierarchy. We love the thought that I've got the higher level being than someone else does. Like even our little ego just has a little bit too much fun with that. But it's been my understanding and talking to the guides that it has more to do with what you're working on. Does that make sense? And also the colors really don't mean as much as some people make them out to mean. Okay? So with these guides, let's talk about who they are. These guides can and very often are beings that you have had a connection with maybe many lifetimes ago. So sometime 400 or 500 years ago, maybe this was your buddy in medieval times, and you have a particularly hard life coming on, or you have a lifetime where you're doing something really important metaphysically, and you may need a guide that you're familiar with, one that's been your friend before, right? So in this particular lifetime, maybe this guide has agreed to come out and hang out with you and be the guide on the other side, but they know you. They really know you because they were your buddy when you both had bodies together, okay? Hi. Others of these guides they've never had bodies. So this can kind of become an interesting problem even when I'm doing readings with clients, when I'm asking them, because client wants to know when this thing is going to happen, and they're like, time? Like everything's happening to us all at the same time, right? For them, it's all happening at once. So they don't have the concept of time in the same way that we do. This is another reason why, for those of you who've had psychic readings, and I'm assuming most people have, this is one of the reasons why time is a really tough one, even for psychics, because we can't necessarily rely on the guides to give us accurate dates and times. We have to use other tools. Like for me, I can kind of see it in your aura when something's going to happen in your timeline-ish. The other thing about guides is some of these guys are interplanetary beings. If you're from California, the word alien isn't so nice, but we might call them aliens. They're from other places. But you know what? Guess what? Some of you are too. So these beings, if you think about it, they have a different perspective. When I've asked them, tell me about your role, like how do I explain this to people? They always use analogies that make sense to me, so you'll have to humor me. I married a programmer, so I get a lot of programmer analogies. But because of what's going on, I'm going to give you a firefighter analogy. So we're the firefighters on the ground, putting out the fire, and they're up in the sky going, okay, it's over here. You need to go left. Okay, you need to go left. I said left. I said left. You need to take that class. I told you to take that class. You should take that class. They're up there telling us kind of where we're supposed to go and what we should consider, okay? Because they know what our mission is. And they're not judging us. If we go right, and they told us left 75 times, and they had all of our friends tell us left, they're not going to judge us, but they still want us to make that right? So they're kind of up here, and we're down here doing the work. The other thing I think I hear a lot about guides that I disagree with, guides actually kind of look up to us. We're doing the hard work, okay? We're here, and our mission, all of our missions, at least partly include the idea of us raising the vibrational frequency of the planet. Now, the how, some of you are going to do it with acupuncture. Some of you are going to write some amazing books. Some of you are just going to be really kind and loving to the right people, and you're going to show other people how great that is, right? All of the how is part of the mission, but the what, generally speaking, is raising the vibrational frequency of the planet, and we're all part of that. And they are helping us because they got a different perspective than we do. The other thing to know about guides and that perspective is that, like I said, some of them have never had human bodies. They don't have access to the range of emotions that humans have. This is why sometimes some of you guys have channeled guides, and I know some of you have because I can feel it. I can just already feel that. When you're channeling a guide, you may have heard, I don't understand why humans do this. I don't understand why they would treat each other that way. It's because having not had a human body, they don't get those strong emotions like jealousy. They don't get that feeling of the physical addiction that we as human animals go through, right? That's something that is part of the human physical body that is unusual to us. In other planets, some of these people, like I said, are interplanetary beings. Some of these beings are from planets that don't have in their body the range of emotions in general that the physical human body has. If that makes sense. So when I talk about who the guides are, there's one category of guides that people are always asking me, is my dog a guide? Yes, guess what he is? I think it was Doreen Virtue who wrote about animal beings or animal guides, and she referred to them as joy guides, which I love that explanation because dogs really do radiate love. They really do radiate joy, right? Not all dogs. I mean, let's be honest, we've all at one point had an animal that was really just a dog or really just a cat. But generally speaking, these are animals that radiate love. They show us unconditional love. And we get to see what unconditional love looks like through the guise of these animals. Does that make sense? When you're talking about what guides are, it's also important to talk about what they aren't. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be drinking a lot of water because the allergies are kind of bugging me. Just telling you that. So the question I inevitably get, I think my grandma is one of my guides. To which I'm always glad that you thought you had such a wonderful grandma that you thought, oh my God, this woman is so amazing and perfect that she would be a guide. That's so great, because I certainly didn't have that grandma. That's great. But generally speaking, your grandmother is not one of your guides. Your grandmother may still hang around, and she may offer guidance, but technically not really one of your spirit guides, because a lot of the spirit guides start with you when you're born and leave the relationship when you leave the body, right? Or at least sort of pause it until the next life. Grandma doesn't usually fit into that category. Also, I do mediumship too, and I can tell you the messages I get from dead grannies, quite a bit different the kinds of messages that I'm going to get from your spirit guide. It is not terribly unusual to have a dead grandma say that you shouldn't be dating a guy that's Jewish, or that you don't look good in yellow, and I can 100% guarantee your spirit guides is never going to say that, right? They still love you, but they don't quite understand, right? They're just different. There's some cultural aspects to a dead granny that you might not see with a spirit guide. The other thing that comes up a lot with spirit guides is what I call branded guides. When people come to me and say, oh, I am 100% sure that Saint Germain is one of my guides, and I love Saint Germain. He's really cool. I have actually met him a few times. He shows up. But generally speaking, we're talking about the hierarchy of guides. Jesus, Saint Germain, Muhammad, these are beings that are kind of like, if you think about your boss, they're like your boss's boss's boss, right? They're right up there. They may be leading the whole group of guides, but they're not necessarily the one that hangs out with you every day and tells you, to be careful, right? They will show up. They will hang around. I actually asked Saint Germain once, because he showed up for a client, and I said, you can come all the time. I really do like you. And he was saying that his energy, it's a lot of work for him to come down to a level where he can be in my presence or any human's presence and not burn us up, because he's just kind of at a vibrational frequency where he would do that. So when we're connecting with them, we're going up. They have to come down quite a bit to connect with us. And some higher vibrational frequency guides would find that even more difficult than others. Don't get me wrong, they'll do the work, right? But there's other guides that are a little more in tune with us, and it's not quite as hard for them, if that makes sense, okay? So guides love to give you messages. And the question I get all the time is, I don't think they're talking to me. I don't hear them. They're talking to you all the time. All the time. And they love to do things to give you messages in very unusual ways. They have told me a million times they love to mess with your radio. One guide actually told me in particular Sirius XM. I don't know if you guys have, I love Sirius XM, it's great. This is really easy for them to change the channel on Sirius XM for some reason. I don't know why, I don't know. But they will deliver information. So let's say they want to tell you that you need to take this spirit guide class, I don't know, let's just say that. You'll get an email, and then they'll have you go to Starbucks, and you go to Starbucks, and there's two people talking about it ahead in line. Or you'll go to Noble Coffee, and you'll see one of the flyers, which Noble Coffee, really good, like super good, like the best espresso ever, I'm just saying. Discovered that, highly addicting substance, which I absolutely love. Obviously love it, because I drink a lot of coffee. They will do that. If they are wanting to tell you something, they will usually tell you 7 or 8 different ways, and they will love to mess with the modalities. I'll give you an example. For this event, I'd been trying to come for a couple of months, just to come to one night, and I could never make it. There was always something came up, or it was always some kind of scheduling issue, and I could never show up. So to prepare for this, I was trying to figure out what to wear, I'll be honest, right? So I clicked on a couple of your old videos here to watch it, and it kept taking me to a video of a baby in a bassinet, and a black cat kept jumping in, and mom comes over and runs, takes the kitten out of the, and I know that's not what you had set it up to do, right? But it was so cute. But I'm like, okay, guides, what are you trying to tell me here? Because, I know this is not going to get me an idea of what to wear to this event, right? So it's really cute. And they're like, you just need to lighten up. These people are not judgy. This is Oregon, not California. Nobody's going to be thinking she's not wearing the right kind of shoes. It was really fun to watch that. And as soon as I got that message received, right, then I could click on the video and watch a very good presenter talk about something really interesting. So I was glad to see that. But the guides had been messing with my YouTube, right? Every time I clicked on your video link to this event, and I was seeing a cat video with a baby. It was super cute. I actually watched the whole thing several times. That's what the kinds of things that they will do. If you've got a question or a health issue, you will be surprised how many total strangers you'll run across who will start talking about it right in front of you. You'd be surprised how many commercials are on TV referencing this thing. You'd be surprised how many Google ads pop up for something, and maybe it sends you to a link or gives you an idea. I'm not saying buy the product that's on the Google link. I'm saying maybe you get an idea of something that gives you to something else that gets you to the place that has the information that they want you to have. Or maybe you're inspired to get a reading with someone, an intuitive. The readings can be really fun, but I know sometimes what will happen is even when I'm giving intuitive readings, I will hear from clients that you told me that, but I feel like I've been hearing it for the past week, so I think maybe you just picked up on what was in my subconscious. I'm like, no, it was in your subconscious because Guide's been screaming at you for the last 3 weeks, right? Because I can hear them telling me, we've been telling her and she's not listening. So that's one of the things that guides will do to deliver information, okay? I will tell you, guide information tends to be just a few words and not an essay. Unless you're writing a book, and some of you have. I know you guys have done that, and a guide has helped you write the 65,000 words. I know that's how long books are. I've written a few of them. It's a lot of work. But unless you're writing a book, usually guide information is usually just a few words, okay? It's us who will add emotion to it. So a guide might whisper in your ear. I'll give you another random example. Christmas Day, I was driving home from my parents' house, and it was raining, it was pouring, and I was watching some idiot drive way too fast by me, and I could hear the guide in my head say, he's going to hit the car in front of him, then he's going to spin around and hit the guardrail. You need to change lanes. So I changed lanes, get 911 on the phone, while his car is still spinning, I'm looking up at the exit to figure out where the ambulance needs to go. But the message was delivered in a very quiet, calm, no emotion way. And it was only later, I pulled over and I freaked out because I realized that I probably just saw somebody die on Christmas Day, But that's how a guide information is usually delivered. And again, it's really important to note that it is not full of emotion. So a guide message isn't going to say, go buy a firearm and you're going to feel a lot of fear around that. That's not what a guide says, and that's not how they deliver that message. I'm not saying that you should never do things like that, but I'm saying when you're feeling a strong emotion with a message, it might not be a guide. It's probably not a guide. It could be your ego. It could be your own fears speaking to you, right? Guide information tends to be more neutral. The other thing that shows up a lot is that people will ask me, are the guides male or female? It's been my experience, about a third of them are male, and about a third of them are female, and another third are androgynous. I can't tell. You know? And when I've asked them about this, because I'm like, I can feel a very masculine feeling guide here, they tell me it has a little bit more to do with what you need to feel. So if you respond better to a very authoritative masculine feeling, that's the guide that will be closer to you, giving you the messages that are the most important. If you respond better to a loving female, or certain messages that are delivered from a loving female, you're going to be more likely to have that guide closer and giving you more of the day-to-day messages. And then a lot of them just feel very androgynous, like I can't tell. And it doesn't matter. Generally speaking, when I do see a guide, even in my mind's eye, like I said, it is mostly just colors. It is kind of rare for me to see a guide that has a real distinct form. And when I do see a real distinct form, it's usually because that's important to the person for some reason, and I need to tell them that. I've got a client who's really, really an interesting guy. He's from China, but he has a samurai. I know China and Japan are two different things. You don't have to tell me that. He's got a samurai that shows up every time, and in full gear. And I love this guide because he's so interesting. But this was important for him to know because he needed to feel like there was a warrior around him because he was going through some really tough stuff. So this guide was showing me a form that was really resonating for him personally, if that makes sense, okay? So a lot of people want to know, how do I reach them? How do I get in touch with them? It's not that they're not getting in touch with you or that you're not getting in touch with them. The challenge is that you need to be able to hear them better. You need to be able to trust the messages that you're getting. You need to feel more comfortable with these buddies that are around you all the time. You need to trust your own wisdom. And a lot of that for all of us, forget the mic. Forget the mic is there. It's an accessory. For all of us, it's going to be living and being in your core. I always hate the advice, go meditate more, because it's like everybody's so sad. But yes, obviously you should be meditating more. But I will tell you that meditation comes in a lot of forms. Personally, I love, love, love moving meditation. I love going for hikes. I love opening my back porch and there's deer in my yard. I know some of you guys in Ashland are just crazy about the deer, but I still think they're magic. There's animals everywhere here. It's really cool, right? Walking in nature, doing body work, things like massage, going on vacations. Personally love Pilates. I love that feeling of the muscles stretching. When you're doing things that enhance the body, mind, spirit, that are good for you, that are nourishing to the physical body, that's how you're going to get more in touch with your guides. People often ask me, though, is there a special diet I can follow? No. I have a preference. I personally, I'm not a doctor, personally think that the whole food vegan diet is probably the healthiest. But when I've asked the guides, no matter how many different ways I've worded it, they do not say that. They tell me that some people respond better with this. Some people need to eat meat. Some people need to eat exclusively fruit. It is not, what I've heard from the guides is that when it comes to diet, it is not one size fits all. It is at best one size fits most, right? And that what's really key is not necessarily to listen to what all those books say, although I've read all those books and they're really good. I love weight loss books. Those are fun to read. Not necessarily to go with the books as much as go with yourself. How do I feel? When I eat this thing, when I eat this green leafy salad, do I feel good? Okay, maybe I should keep more of that. Do I eat steak? If I feel good when I eat that, maybe you should just pay more attention to that. But in terms of dieting for getting in touch with guides, there really isn't any particular thing. I will say that there are some things that the guides pretty universally have said does interfere with mental stuff. Not for everyone. I will say for the most part, though, I've heard many times that eating a lot of wheat gluten kind of causes that brain fog. If you eat a piece of pizza and your brain is foggy and you have trouble doing simple math afterward, maybe you don't eat as much pizza, right? It is as simple as that. You don't have to be really mechanical about it. But also eating a lot of sugar is another thing the guides say is not real helpful. For some people, eating a lot of dairy is an issue. So we always are being asked to feel out for ourselves what our bodies want and pay attention to that. And go with what your body tells you, because the body wisdom is pretty freaking incredible, right? But it's a matter of us getting in touch with ourselves and paying attention to that. And I will say with this particular class, I do teach 4 or 5 of these things on rotation. With this one, I love doing it because like for the week before the event, the guides know that they're allowed to pester me a little bit. Like they can't wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning, that's a rule. But they know they can kind of tell me what they want me, what you guys need to know, because guess what? They knew you were coming before you did, right? So I kind of get a list. I'm just going to peek at my list to make sure I covered all of the bases here. I think I did. But, I know that they will tell you to ask a question. Okay. Communication, sacred. Okay, no, that's the process. Let's not go there. What they look like, I already told you that. How to reach them. Okay, I think I got most of it. I will say something that the guides have told me many times they want all of you to know is that they love you so much. They really do. They have a great respect for you. You're doing the hard work. It may seem like they're so on high being guides and wonderful, but they recognize that we're the ones lifting the heavy weights and that we're the ones doing work that some of them have done, many of them haven't. They have a lot of respect and admiration for us. And they will have often told me that one of the things that they don't love seeing here is how polarized we are. And I'm talking about politics, but not at the same time. I'm not talking about any particular party. But the idea that the media keeps pushing on us that Democrats and Republicans should be enemies is really true. They want us to unite on, and this is something I've heard them say many times, that even if you guys disagree, uniting on particular issues. They were showing me that in the future there will be a lot more of this. Democrats and Republicans that have a similar value or belief on a particular issue working together on projects is what I've been seeing a lot more of. And I would say that the media has been pushing us not to do that. I'm not saying, fake news or anything like that, because I really don't believe that. I think that's a great way to get people to discount real news, is to say that's fake. But it's not a stretch to say that some of what we're watching in the media is about selling product. As a hypnotherapist, and I've done this for a long time, I've learned from every hypnotherapy class I've ever taken that somebody who's afraid is more likely to buy more stuff. So if you're watching all this terrible thing going on in the world, and then Pepsi comes on, shows you a commercial for this great product or this Doritos, you're much more likely to buy more stuff after being enmeshed in this fear. I'm not saying it's some big government plot. I wasn't in on that meeting. If that's what's happening, I don't know about it for sure. But I will say that it is not a stretch to say that media can make us very fearful, which can make us buy not usually those kinds of things, but all kinds of things that aren't necessarily good for us. And that is good for the advertisers who are in those spots. That makes sense? They want us in general to get more comfortable being friends with our neighbors, even people that are very different than us. So you don't have to agree, but you could still be buddies. I'll give you one last random example. I live here now. I love Ashland, it's beautiful. But I was living in Encinitas, California. I lived there for a long time. And Encinitas threatened to take away Halloween because it was during the COVID. And I was like, Halloween, you can't do that. The kids are coming in mass. I mean, like, I just really was bothered by that. And there was a neighbor across the street from me, and her and I are not in the same political arena, and we were yelling at each other across the cul-de-sac about this terrible injustice the city was going to take away our Halloween. It was just awful. And she's like, you know what? We could get a permit to hold a religious event. And I was all down with that because the city had given a permit for a religious event to the park across from us. And her and I will tell you, polar opposites politically, but we both wanted to save Halloween. So, setting aside, if you can set aside how you might feel about the idea that we were not going to be super spreaders, there was going to be mass, but we were going to work together on this project, and at the last minute, city backed down and said, just keep it safe, and so we all did. But I can tell you that even though we disagreed on a lot of issues, we were able to work together. Now, saving Halloween is not exactly rocket science. It is certainly not feeding the homeless, but it's just an example of a way that two people that in a lot of ways disagreed were working together on something that mattered to the two of us, okay? And there could be times in the future where you'll need your neighbors more than you realize, or maybe even more than you do now. And we already saw all of this with COVID. Some of us didn't have toilet paper. Trading with your neighbor with toilet paper was a very nice thing. I had to do that a couple times, so. I think that's everything, but I will say again that something that's really key and important for the guides, they want you to know, is that you really are loved and you're really, really, really important, and that you never are alone, okay? Great. So we are going to do meditation, a really super cool exercise. Bathroom? Should they go to the bathroom first?
Sure, yeah. And do you want me to turn off the lights during?
Nah, I don't care. But I would only ask that if you're not into the meditation, it's totally fine. You're not going to hurt my feelings any. But just don't get up and walk around. It's only about 15 minutes, but don't get up and walk around because you're going to disturb everyone else. Make sense? Okay, great. Thanks. Nice to meet you.
Everything my brain shuts down when I meditate.
Everybody thinks that.
Always something going on in there.
That's a great point. I will tell you that, actually, that's a great time. I'm going to mention this even though it's not Q&A yet. This is something I get. My husband's a programmer, so I hear a lot from programmers, software engineers. I spend a lot of time with engineers that they always think they can't be hypnotized or that they can't meditate because their minds are just so. That is the biggest load of nonsense that any hypnotherapist has ever slung at a group of clients, because engineers and scientists are absolutely the easiest to hypnotize. They are the first ones to say, I can't be hypnotized, I didn't go under. Yeah, but you quit smoking, so I know you got hypnotized, so I know it worked, okay? Mm-hmm. The thing about scientists and engineers, and also very, very intelligent people, which, let's be honest, most scientists and engineers are highly intelligent, is the ability to focus intently on something deeply for a long period of time. That's part of being intelligent. If you've ever seen a programmer get lost in programming code, and it's like another world, another language, or even when they're playing video games, and they're gone. Like 8 hours go by and they never ate. It's weird, right? I don't understand that. But it's just that the mind kind of slows down, they get in the zone, and they lose track of time. That is actually the semi-hypnotic state. So when you're in one of those phases where you're the kind of person that can zone in, tune out, you're actually in a light state of trance. And I will tell you that even a very light state of trance, particularly with somebody who's highly intelligent, you can do a lot with that, right? You don't have to go super deep. It doesn't have to be, I almost blacked out, I was so deep, you know? No. It is, even a light state of trance can be very beneficial. That's one of the things that's kind of rough, though, about TV. I'm not anti-TV, don't get me wrong, I love TV. I watch a lot of TV. Ted Lasso, if you guys have seen that show, that is awesome, right? But the way we can kind of zone out, we give an opportunity for things to influence us a little bit on the television. So you just have to be mindful. If Ted Lasso is holding an Apple product, it doesn't mean you should go buy one unless you want one. Make sense? Apple TV is the one who makes that product. So every 10 seconds, you're going to see a character in that show holding an Apple product. So next time you watch that, that's the only thing you'll be able to see now. So, okay, so we're going to get started. You guys ready? So like I said, you don't want to participate, totally fine. Just don't get up and walk around, okay?
Let me just turn my cell phone.
Oh, yes, please. No, I would really prefer that because that is distracting for me as well. Yeah, no, that's very, very annoying. I kind of get into trance too when I'm doing these, so it is kind of uncomfortable for me too. We're going to have a lot of fun. You're going to love this. Okay. So this is not hypnotherapy, even though I do that. We're not going to go that deep. This is just going to be a fun process where I'm going to guide you along, okay? I will tell you, some of you are going to fall asleep. It's always a dude. It's always a dude. I'm just saying, it's always a dude that falls asleep. It's always a dude. Is it going to be? I don't know. This is only about 15 minutes long. Some of you, as soon as I go walk you down the stairs, you're going to go on your own journey because your guides are in charge and they're going to take you someplace else. That's totally okay. Some of you, if I'm describing mountaintops and fairy dust, you're not going to see it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything if you're not seeing what I'm describing. Everybody's a little different. Some people are really visual. Some people are very auditory. It doesn't mean anything left, it doesn't mean better or worse if you're not seeing what I'm describing. Okay? So just know that that's part of it. Also, there's one part in this where I'm going to have you connect with your spirit guides. And one of the questions we're going to ask them, I'm just going to tell you this now because when it comes up, I want you to know this is what I'm talking about. At some point, I'm going to say, ask them if they're your guide. And if they, for some reason they say no or they say they don't answer, thank them for their time and then leave. I don't know why, but they have to leave. If they're not your guide, they're supposed to leave. It's not going to be anything negative. It just might be, being this curious, but isn't really your guide. It was nice knowing them, but they're not here. We're not here to talk to them. We're here to talk to one of your guides. Make sense? Okay. Ready? We all ready? Okay, cool. Okay, just gonna look over my notes because they told me every time I do this is always a little different because they told me what they wanted to do this time. Before we get started, actually just kind of take a sec to think about something you want, like some material object. Money? Your Tesla? Okay, just take a sec for that. We're gonna have fun. Okay. So whenever you're ready, go ahead and close your eyes. And just allow your attention and focus to go to your breath. Paying attention to the ebb and flow of your breath. And just noticing the way each inhalation brings in calm, peace, and centering. And the way each exhalation releases that which you're done with, allowing yourself to really relax, really let go. Focusing on you now, focusing on your needs. And I want you to imagine that there's a beautiful healing light coming from the very center of the universe. And it's just the most perfect color and the most perfect frequency for you, for exactly what you're doing today and exactly what you need. And as you feel this light around you, just breathe it deep, deep, deep inside. And just feel this light going through the center of your body, down the spinal column, out through the base of the body, out through the feet and into the floor. And then feel this light continuing on and going right into the center of the universe, right to Mother Earth. And she's going to take this light and she's going to add love, harmony, and peace. And maybe a little courage. And whenever you're ready, go ahead and breathe it up through the body and see it going out through the top of the head, going right back into the center of the universe. So you're feeling yourself simultaneously connected with spirit and with earth at the same time. You're completing a circle. And as you're completing this circle, I want you to become aware of a beautiful staircase just in front of you. And just feel it. It's made out of crystal, but it's very comfortable. It's not very slippery. And as you step on the first step, you're going to feel yourself going deeper and deeper. And with each number I count down, you're going to go twice as deep, 6. Really letting go. 5. Deeper yet. Much, much deeper. 4. There's nothing to do. No one to bother you, just you. 3. Twice as deep, even deeper. 2. Almost there now, twice as deep. 1. All the way inside. Allowing each breath to bring you a little bit deeper. And a little bit deeper. And even deeper. Good, very good. So I want you to see yourself now in a beautiful, magical meadow. It's evening time. And as you're waking your way, you're actually making your way towards a very beautiful palace. It's a temple. And it may have these beautiful Greek columns. And as you walk towards this temple, you're aware that the other people in class with you are joining you as well. They are on the journey with you. Even though you each have your own individual journeys, you're going to use your collective energies and love to build connection and rapport. So as you feel yourself getting close to this temple, go ahead and climb the steps. And just see yourself either standing or sitting, whatever's most comfortable for you. And just intuitively, energetically, notice who's sitting to your left in this portal, in this very special place. And go ahead and see that it's a circle of you all, in a circle. And just send love all the way to the left. And feel it growing and multiplying as it comes back and hits you. Beautiful, beautiful love. Now to the right, send the idea of prosperity. Just tap into that feeling of having everything that you want and having more than plenty. Now send that energy to the right. Round the circle and feel it multiplying, multiplying, multiplying. It comes back and it hits you and you feel both love and prosperous all at the same time. Just feel that now. And for a moment, I want you to think about that beautiful love and that beautiful sense of prosperity. And as you turn around in your mind's eye, you're going to see all of your guides there. And then you're going to see all of your classmates' guides. The room is actually very, very crowded. And you're feeling it. It's all about love, connection. And in the very center of the circle, you're going to feel that the guides have lit a little magical fire. And it might be quite large or it might be small, but the guides themselves have lit this fire. And I want you to think about a material object that you would like to have, because the guides want you to know it's okay to ask for things that you want, material objects. They want you to have the good stuff too. I want you to think about that material object. And as you think about it, just notice it, think about it in your mind. And the prayer inside is this or something better. Because believe me, sometimes there is something better. So it's this or something better. Just hold it in your mind. And then go ahead and place it into the circle where the fire is. And I want you to see everyone else has placed their object. Maybe there's more than one. And I want you to see the fire has consumed it now. It hasn't destroyed it. It's actually just giving it energy. And you ask the question, can I have this object, this or something better? And you're receiving the answer now. The answer is yes, you can have it. You can have it. And as you got your answer, you're imagining everyone else in that circle getting what they wanted too, or even better, something even better. And whenever you're ready, just stick your hand in that fire and just grab a little bit of that flame. And it's a gift. It's a gift of the object, but it's also a gift of a quality of energy that you need. Maybe it's courage. Maybe it's power. Maybe it's confidence. Whatever you decide. And then always say this or something better. And as you're holding this little fire, go ahead and breathe it into your heart-lung area. It's not going to burn. It's just energizing you, and it's a gift. It's a gift from your guides and all of the guides that contributed to this event today. And the answer was yes, you can have that thing you want. This or something even better. Good, very good. And just take one final look around the group and just thank everyone in your mind. They all contributed to you getting that thing you wanted. And you're so happy for them because they all got what they wanted too. And as you leave the circle with your flame, you're going to find yourself going on your own path, each individual, finding yourself walking through a scenery that you like. Perhaps you're on the beach, maybe you're in the desert, maybe you're in a meadow, you decide. But you're going to find yourself in a place that is surrounded by standing crystals, standing pillars of crystal. And in the center of this place, there's two seats. One is for you, and one is for a guide. So whenever you're ready, go ahead and sit down. One of those chairs, and just notice it's the most comfortable chair you've ever sat in your life. It's so soothing and comfortable. And you're going to say to yourself in your mind, I now invite in my guide for communion and communication. And as you breathe in, you're going to feel them stepping between the circle and sitting in the chair across from you. And you're just going to ask them as they sit, are you my guide, and are you here for my highest good? And if for some reason the answer is no, or there is no answer, you're going to say thank you for sharing, and just ask them to move along. You're here for a guide, and they will. But if it is your guide, just welcoming them. And if you've had to ask someone else, someone to move on, just invite the next being in and ask the same question, are you my guide? And are you here for my highest good? And when the answer is yes, just feel their energy. Just breathe it in. And if you'd like, go ahead and ask them their name. And if for some reason they don't give you an answer, ask them for something that you can call them. Good, very good. Trust whatever comes up. Now go ahead and ask them how they like to communicate, how they like to give you messages. Good, very good. Now go ahead and ask them if they have a message for you now. Ask them what they want you to know. Good, very good. Now ask them what else they want you to know. What else would they like you to know? Good, very good. Beautiful. Now, if you have a particular question for them, go ahead and ask that. Good, very good. Now go ahead and ask them another question. Good. We're going to ask one final question. We're going to ask them to tell you what you need to know that you didn't think to ask, or something you want to know that you didn't think to ask. Good, very good. So trusting comes up. Knowing that sometimes the answer will come later. Sometimes you ask the question and they'll give it to you later. So just seeing them there, and I want you to just imagine a beam of light from your heart-lung area to their heart-lung area, wherever that is on them. And a beam from their mind area to your mind area, wherever that is on them. And feel that beam of light going from your mind to their mind and from your heart to their heart, and just feeling the connection. And we're just reinforcing this connection. It's always there, it always has been. But no matter where you are, who you're with, or what you're doing, you're always connected to your guides. And just feeling that connection now. Good, very good. Feeling that love. Thanking them as they thank you for coming and making it easier for them to connect with you in this very special place. Just thanking, being of gratitude and feeling it. Whenever you're ready, just in your mind, standing up as they depart, although they're not really going anywhere. Stepping around the stones, finding yourself at a place with a staircase, and you're going to climb up. 1, slowly starting to come up now. 2, feeling excited about these changes, knowing they're going to happen just the way you've asked for them. 3, feeling so good, so strong. 4, energy returning to fingers and toes. 5, eyes open, wide awake, feeling fine and wonderful. Rub your hands together. Tap your feet. It's fun, isn't it? I love your guides. Like, some of your guides were like super strong. Like, one person's guide, I can't say who because I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't know. I was like, dude, I have to back off. A little too close. A little too much for me. But it's fun. Guides are fun.
Maybe it was mine because he didn't come to visit me.
No, they do. They do. It's just, we have to get used to that. You know, this is the first time probably the first time you've done a process just exactly like this. And the guide was there. It was not he, she, they. He, she, they. They're not going. Well, maybe one of each, right? Mm-hmm. They're not, they're always around us. One thing I did forget to mention is that there's some school of thinking that if you have a lot of guides, it means something. It's not been my experience. Some people have like one or two, only have like 2 guides, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're less evolved. It just means they're working on something very specific and they don't necessarily need 100 guides. Other people have a lot more guides, but typically it's 3 to 5. That makes sense. Okay, so any questions?
Excuse me, Jill. real quick.
Yeah.
Could you repeat the question because just for the recording?
Fair enough.
Thank you.
She was concerned that maybe her guide hadn't showed up. I will tell you, your guides all showed up. They all did. They were all here. But it's kind of on us to practice being able to connect with them. Does that make sense? That's not really, they try to show us, but you know, we're learning. We're learning. Okay, so question. Yay.
How do you connect with them?
You're connecting with them all the time. They connect with you.
Or how do you hear them?
They actually you hear them in your mind. How do you hear them? You hear them in your mind. You hear the voice in your head. You'll hear the radio talking about the question that you've got. So this is especially true if you have something going on in your life that you want the answer to. What do I do about this, right? How do I handle this, or how do I manage this? Guides love to answer specific questions. The nuance of, I'm feeling this and I'm feeling that. It's easier if you have a more specific question for them. What do I do about this? Give me steps. They love to give us steps. Obviously, half those books, even though the authors don't say it, half those books were channeled by guides who just went through the steps. Here's the steps. I want you to tell them this, this, and this in this order. Well, even if you didn't deliver it that way, they may tell the editor later, you need to switch things around because I want something in a different order. My editor friend was telling me this. She'll get this message when she's editing a book. She can hear her spirit guide saying, hey, I told the person it needs to be this way, and they didn't do it. I really feel like chapter 7 and chapter 9 need to be switched, and she'll do it. So, yeah, you can hear them. They're there. It's just a matter of trusting that the information we're getting is real. Make sense?
Is it a voiceless voice? Is it my own voice?
It's your own voice. It's always going to be your own voice. It's never going to be some creepy dude. It's always going to be your own voice. It's going to sound like you. It's going to use your words. Your messages from your guides are going to have your voice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming out.